In this training, we're going to cover conference controls while actively in a GroundSwell webinar. So if you look at the top, you'll see a menu bar with several features and functions. The first is stop meeting. Go ahead and start there. But to back up a second, we're actually in a live conference. So you can see there's one chairperson, which is myself, and then one participant on the call, which is who is Cal Ripken Jr. So stop meeting or start meeting. This indicates to you as the host whether you've started the meeting or the meeting's actually been stopped. So right now the meeting is active. If you had not started your meeting yet, there'd be a green button that would say start meeting. So again, we're in a live meeting. Another way to start your webinar is to double click on a slide at the bottom. So if you intend on presenting slides, you've uploaded them to the conferencing tool, you can double click on a slide and that'll start the meeting as well. But until you've hit that start meeting button, all your participants will be waiting in a lobby. Second option is start recording. So if you hit the start recording button, it's going to record the webinar along with the audio, and it's going to store that as an MP4 file in the conferencing portal. So you would access that conferencing portal by entering in your conferencing credentials, which we'll cover a little bit further on in this training. When you hit start recording, it's going to indicate to all your participants on that call that the conference is being recorded, and it's going to also indicate to you that the chairperson at the conference is being recorded as well. Moving further to the right, the share option. This allows you to share your desktop or share an application on your desktop. So if I select that option, there's a dialog box that's going to show up. It's going to say share desktop and application. So a couple different decisions you have to make here. If the system detects more than one monitor, so if you have more than one monitor hooked up to your desktop or laptop, it's going to indicate to you, it's going to ask you which monitor you want to share. So you hit that drop-down menu. In this case, I'm going to share monitor 2. It's also going to ask, moving down, is whether you want to share your desktop or share a specific application on your desktop. So if I chose to share my desktop, everything on monitor 2 is going to be shown to my audience or participants. If I select share application, any application that I have on monitor 2 is going to be shown to my audience. So in this case, I'm going to select share application, I'm going to select Google Chrome, and I'm going to share Google Chrome. So it's going to take me to my Google Chrome browser, and in this case, I have the browser open to the web conferencing portal website. So we're going to cover the conference controls that you have when you're in sharing mode. So right now, again, I'm sharing I'm sharing Google Chrome with my audience. They can see what's on my desktop here, monitor 2. This green arrow button will take me back to conference controls, so it'll take me out of screen share mode and back into conference controls if I selected that. Start recording. We covered this. This is allowing you from share mode to start a recording. If I wanted to pause the conference, so if I possibly maybe didn't have some material ready, or I wanted to open something on the fly that I wanted my participants to see, but I didn't have it ready yet, I could pause the conference, open that up, and then hit pause again, and the webinar would start, or the sharing function of the webinar would start. Next option, again, is share. So I have the ability to change, if I wanted to, whether I'm sharing an application or desktop. So if I wanted to change the application I was sharing, I could do that here, or I could select share desktop and share my entire desktop. So that's sort of an on-the-fly way for you to change what you're sharing while in screen share mode. So I'm going to go ahead and close this option. If I selected participants, this is going to give me a list of participants that are actively in my webinar, and then on the web portion of the call as well as the audio. So in this case, again, it's just myself, the chairperson, and one participant connected to both the audio, so they're viewing my desktop share right now, and they're actively connected to the web, and then they're also on the audio bridge. In this case, if you look to the left, there's a headset which indicates to me Cal Ripken is listening to the audio portion of this conference over his PC. If he was listening over the phone and had dialed in, there'd be a little handset option, and you can see that handset option in green next to my name. If I move on, close this, I move on to audio. So if I select the audio option while in share mode, a couple different options are going to show up in order for me to control the audio bridge. So if I wanted to mute the lines, unmute lines, ask for an operator, put the call in a listen-only mode, hit conference continuation, or lock audio, all those options are available to me while in share mode. If I hit chat, the next option, I can see questions and statements that have come in from my participants during conference. So if I was presenting my desktop and I wanted to answer a question that came in via chat, I could do that by hitting the chat option here. So I'm going to go ahead and close both of those. Annotate. So in order to annotate your desktop, I have to share my entire desktop. So I'm going to go back to the share option, hit share desktop, and hit share. And then the annotate option is going to become available to me. I'm going to hit that, and this will allow you to annotate what you are sharing on your screen so people can easily follow along with what you're presenting. So in this case, I'm using a green arrow, and if I hit the mouse once, the left mouse button, it'll drop a green arrow where I'm on the material that I'm covering. And I can also change this to a laser pointer in this case so they can follow along. I could also change that to a yellow arrow button or a black checkbox. I can also draw on the screen, so if I wanted to circle something specific, I could do that. And then also, if I hit the erase button to the right, it's going to erase all the material that I've written on the screen. Also, this collapse button will collapse the controls, make them smaller. So if you already know what they are, you may want to work in a collapse mode. So what I'm going to do now is return to my conference controls by pressing the green arrow button, and here I am back in conference controls. Next is add co-presenter. So again, moving to the right, if I select this option, all the participants that are on my call will show up here, and I can choose a participant and promote them to be a co-presenter. So I can promote as many participants to co-presenters as I want. This is often helpful if you need more than one person to help you present on the material that you intend to present to your audience. So, you know, if you're conducting a presentation and you want someone to answer questions that come in via chat, that's a good reason to have a co-presenter. Maybe if you're presenting on material you're not familiar with, you have a subject matter expert that can present on that material better. You want to promote someone else to be a co-presenter. They'll have controls of the audio bridge. They'll have controls to advance slides, to annotate your desktop. They'll have almost all the controls that you as the primary chairperson have. I think they have about 90% of the controls. However, they don't have all of the controls. So keep that in mind. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of that. Enable webcams. So the conference system allows webcams. So if you wanted to do video as part of your call and you selected enable webcams, what will happen is these little toggle boxes will show up, and I believe you can have 8 concurrent desktops being shared that you can view while in conference. So that's a nice feature as well if you wanted to actually view the participants that were on your call. If you're having a larger conference, you know, the video is very bandwidth intensive, so you may just want to share your screen and not have other participants or members of the conference share their screen. Moving further over to the right, invite others. So if I select this option while in conference, it's going to give me a link. So I can copy this link and email it out, or I can email it directly from within conference controls by hitting email. So assuming Outlook is open, it's going to open up an invitation, and as soon as that happens, so here's my invitation. I can send this to whomever I want, and then this is a unique link to my conference. So when they select this, they'll have options to get into the webinar portion, and then they'll be able to decide whether they want to call into the conference or whether they want to access the audio portion of the conference over their PC. So I'll go ahead and assume I sent that out to my intended party. Again, you can also cut and paste this onto a clipboard or cut and paste it into an email and send it out yourself. So I'm going to select done on that. The last option is settings. So if I select settings, a couple different options will show up here at the top. You'll see web, audio, and advanced. So this allows you, if you wanted to add additional security to your conference, you could prompt your participants to enter in an additional security passcode for a conference. If you selected this option, you're going to have to let them know what that security code is. You could turn on or off the warning sign that will be shown to you as a chairperson when you're about to share your desktop. Sharing performance, highest speed to the far left, highest quality to the far right. So if you had something that had a lot of detail, maybe like a CAD drawing, and you wanted to make sure that your audience members could see everything in great detail, you want to move this to the far right. If you had a presentation where you're going to quickly move through slides and you weren't as concerned about the detail that's contained within that slide deck, you may want to move this further to the right. So that allows you some control over the quality of what you're presenting. Move over to the right, the audio tab. So you can turn on and off the ability for participants to access the conference through their PC. So if I unselected that, then no other additional participants could come in over their PC to listen to the audio. Entry announcement, this is an important one that's often used. So if you have a larger conference, right now I've got it set to tone. So whenever a participant comes in or leaves my conference, a tone is going to be sounded to the audience members as well as the chairperson. So if you have a conference of over 100 people, you're going to have just by nature of the conferencing service, you're going to have people coming in and out constantly, and the tone is going to be sounded. That can be very distracting to yourself, the chairperson, and the people that you're presenting to. So you can turn that to silent, so whenever someone comes in or out of your conference, that you won't hear a tone sound. You'll hear silence. Name, this is another option which will allow the conferencing system to capture someone's name when they're about to come into conference. So that'll be announced to you when they come into conference. It allows for a more formal, so if you have a formal conference, so if you have some upper level executives or management and you want their name presented to you so you can greet them appropriately, you want to select the name option. And then you can turn on and off that name record option for future conferences by selecting here. And then you can also choose to allow the system to save your settings for future conferences or not. Last tab is advanced. So this will enable the toggle bar button so you can turn on and off that. And then also application sharing. You can turn on and off whether you want to share applications during a conference. So now is the last part of the training. I'm going to cover how to access the recording. So let's assume that you recorded your webinar. It's going to store it in the conferencing portal website. So everyone in the welcome letter that you received from GroundSwell, you should that should contain a link to the portal. When you get to the portal website, which is shown here, you're going to have to enter in some information under the chairperson login. So your conference phone number, this is the number that you dial to access the audio bridge, 855 number, enter that here. You're going to have to enter your access code, chairperson passcode, hit login. Once logged in, you're going to hit the homepage for the conferencing portal website. I want to select web conferencing, select start, manage, archive. It's going to open up a new tab in your browser, take you to the web moderator page. On the left-hand side, manage recordings. And in this account, you can see that there are 3 recordings that are stored here. I'm going to select the first one, and it's going to take me to the actual recording. So I can, there's an embedded flash player here, so I can go ahead and play the video. I can view it in a larger view if I wanted to see the presentation in greater detail. Go ahead and close that. So under manage, you can rename the recording. So if you wanted it to be named something other than recording, so you can identify it when you come in, you can rename it here. It also has an editing tool embedded into this player. So for example, if I had 10 minutes of on-hold music in the beginning of my conference, I could edit that out before downloading it to my machine locally. You can download it again to your machine locally, and then you can publish it for others to view the webinar. You can delete it, and then moving over, you can also share it. So if I select show playback URL, this is the link to view this recording for playback. So if you had an audience that you wanted to view the webinar, you could cut and paste this playback link and send it out via email or however you wanted to send it out. You can also email it from within the tool here, so this will open up an Outlook email. It'll publish this message within the email and then also provide the links to access the recording. So go ahead and close that. You can also post it to social media. In this case, you can post it to Twitter. You can also view reports. So if you wanted to see who viewed the recording, you could select view reports, and it'll give you a number of playbacks listed here. So it looks like this recording was viewed 14 times on these particular dates and times. And you can also download this to a CSV. Actually, so looking at this further, it looks like the total number of playbacks were 0. The total chairperson playbacks were 14. So this was, pardon me, I'm going to correct myself here. This was viewed by the chairperson 14 different times. So they, the chairperson of this account logged in and played it 14 different times, or played clips of it at 14 different occasions. And then you can download this report here. So we're going to go ahead and close that. You can also, for reports, you can enable registration. So if I hit edit here, this will allow me to gather information for people that view the webinar for playback. So if I wanted, in order for someone to access the recording, they'd have to enter in their email here if I'd selected this required option. If I wanted their phone number, I could select this option here, and they could also put their company name and select this option here. You can also add additional fields. So for example, if you wanted, this is based on sales, and you wanted to know the number of employees of a company that was viewing this, or any information that you wanted to gather and make it required, you could change the fields here. So I'll go ahead and cancel out of that. And also the system will notify you of a playback. So if you wanted an email notice sent to you when someone has viewed your webinar for playback, you can select that option here. Then you can also add a passcode to it. So obviously any audience members that came back to view it, they would need the passcode in order to view the recording. And just important note here, recordings are available to you for 30 days. After that 30-day period, the recordings are purged. However, if it's the 30-day period has expired and you still need that recording, please email support@groundswellnetworks.net, and we can retrieve that recording for you. And that concludes the training. Thank you.